Hi, my name's Isaac, and this is a brand new 2024 GMC Hummer EV SUV. And today I'm gonna review it for you guys. Something I find interesting about the Hummer brand as a whole is that when it was originally introduced in the 1990s as a consumer vehicle, it was largely known as an SUV. Sure, there was some pickup truck variations over the years, but I feel like culturally this is known as a big SUV. Though, when it was re-announced as an electric vehicle a couple of years ago, I feel like most of the fanfare was focused on the pickup truck variant of the Hummer. That was the first one that was available, and this SUV version has only just come out now, kind of leaving it in the dust. Does the SUV version have less practicality than the pickup truck? Well, let's find out. Before we begin, I'd like to thank Jones GMC for allowing me to borrow this vehicle to review. For all your GMC needs in the Lancaster, Pennsylvania area, I'll leave a link to Jones's website in the description below. Let's take a look at the exterior of the Hummer EV. Starting here with this amazing light bar that continues across the front end, emblematic of the original Hummer styling. I really think it's a great look. Now, this portion is not actually your headlight. The headlight is further down here. This whole thing is just a daytime running light, though it still looks very sharp. You'll have parking sensors down here and these massive tow hooks. You'll have a camera for the 360-degree camera system, and then there is a button right here. If we tap that, that's going to open up the frunk. So there is a front trunk area here because this is an electric vehicle. There is a lot of storage. You also get a 12-volt in here and the little button to escape if you find yourself trapped in here. There are some tie downs as well, though it is very simple for the most part. We can tap that button again. That's going to lower the front trunk. You also have the ability to open that from the key fob, in addition to lock, unlock, panic, and remote start. There's also another ability we'll talk about in a little bit that you can do from the key fob or you can do from the actual button on the vehicle itself. But as we move along the profile, you can see these absolutely gigunda 305 55 tires, around 22-inch wheels. These are massive. And then you'll get a running board step right here, your Hummer EV logo, and then a camera actually incorporated into the mirror pillar. Normally, the cameras are incorporated to the mirror right here, but this is actually a little puddle light. On the Hummer, it's even lower because this is such a massive vehicle. This does have blind spot monitoring, and they are power-operated mirrors. And then you're going to get keyless entry. And I just want to take a moment to appreciate this green color. Not that I didn't like the first edition white on the truck Hummer, but I think this is a cooler color overall that looks a lot sharper. Down here, you'll get another massive tow hook and then a huge, which I guess is kind of the whole mantra of this SUV, spare tire cover with a backup camera incorporated in, and there is a camera for the rear view mirror camera located up here. We'll talk about that a little bit more when we move to the interior. Now, you might look at this rear and go, there's no grab handle here. How do I open this up? Well, there's actually a button right here that if you tap that, it will open up the rear. I don't know if I've ever seen that on an SUV before until now. And you have a massive amount of space back here. There is just so much storage. You have the ability to lower the second row as well. And there is a household outlet and even more storage underneath here. So a ton of space. Obviously, you'd hope there'd be a ton of space. This is a, as I mentioned, Gigunda SUV. Now, closing this, you can hit this button. You can also do it from the key fob. That's the other feature I was alluding to earlier. Though I wanted to see, instinctively, I would go to close this. What does it do if I do that? Now, it gives me some resistance, and it kind of holds. And what I can do is tap that button, and it'll kind of bring it the rest of the way. And if I pushed it all the way closed, it would actually soft close. So the functionality is there to pull it closed yourself, but it is so heavy, I would just recommend hitting the button. So this is normally the spot in the video where I would talk about the engine specifications, but since this is an electric vehicle and I can't really get to where the battery is, I'm just going to have footage of where an engine would normally be on a vehicle as I rattle off the specs. So this is an Edition 1 Hummer EV SUV, so it has all the bells and whistles and the most power that this vehicle can make. It uses a 212 kilowatt battery in combination with a tri-motor setup to get 830 horsepower and an absolutely eye-watering 11,500 pound-feet of torque. It also gets up to 314 miles of electric range. Notably, though, the pickup truck configuration gets up to 1,000 horsepower and 381 miles of electric range. So there's significantly better performance and range out of that model. Moving to the interior of the EV Hummer GMC SUV. Those are the words. Maybe not in the exact order that GMC would want you to say them, but I got all the words right. It is utilitarian in here, though there still are some nice luxury features. And it is worth noting that this is the same interior as the truck variation of the EV Hummer. So if you've seen videos on that, there's not a ton that's new in here. Though if you haven't, there is definitely a lot of features worth highlighting. Starting here with the door panel, this is a nice rubberized material on both the back and front, so that's nice to rest your arm there, and Hummer EV is like stamped into it. You'll have your window controls, your lock and unlock, your mirror controls. They are power folding mirrors. You would hope they'd be. This thing is, you know. I've talked at length. These are some pretty cool climate vents right here. I like the design, and the goldish chrome look really works, especially with the exterior color as well. Then you'll have a fully digital gauge cluster screen right here. That is controllable from the steering wheel. You can go through quite a few different settings on here. There's a lot to mess with. It also has your radar-guided cruise control settings right here and some of your safety system settings. Speaking of the steering wheel, it's very comfortable. Nice stitching incorporated into it. It's heated, which is cool. It also has this piano black bar up here and a little sensor down here. That is for the Super Cruise system, which is General Motors' self-driving technology. Moving on, you will have an almost equally as large infotainment screen. It's actually a little bit bigger than the gauge cluster screen, but that rectangular utilitarian look continues over here. It is a very spiffy system. It quickly moves between apps, and it doesn't really feel like it has a lot of lag. You have Google built in, which is very nice, and there's a host of camera options. So throwing this into reverse real quick, you can see a top-down view comes up. You'll also get a backup camera. You can switch that to a front camera. You can do top-down front, top-down rear. You can do the side mirrors in the front or rear. That's super helpful for off-roading. You have a trailering cam, and then you have just so many different angles to mess with. It's very neat. I think that's everything. I think I've gone through all of them, but regardless, very cool camera system. And then down here, you would be fooled, like I was, if you think this is a touchscreen. I've talked at length about how I wish more car manufacturers would have physical buttons for their climate controls. And then looking at this, I'm like, oh, okay, GM is using touchscreens, but it's not. It is a digital readout for everything here. Nothing is physically laid out, but there are physical buttons. So if I hit the seat button, I can hit this for the heating, this for the cooling to switch, and then I can just turn that down and then turn it off. It's actually very intuitive on this screen, surprisingly so, and you can switch between everything you want. You can go up and down here, and it still does give you physical buttons, which I really appreciate. Your heated steering wheel buttons down here, next to traction control off, your hazards, parking sensors, and more parking sensors. And then down here you'll get 2 climate vents. Popping this open, you will have wireless charging and USB and USB-C down here. Popping this open, you'll have 2 cup holders. And then here is your shifter. It is the new GMC shifter. This has become pretty standard across the board for some of these higher-end trucks and SUVs in General Motors lineup. What you do is you put your foot on the brake, and this is on kind of a gimbal axis. And so pulling it back, it will shift back into the same place, but you're in drive now, you can see by the color. And then pushing it forward will put you into reverse. It will also tell you that on the screen there, and you will know on the screen right there. So it is very helpful. Shifting down puts you back in drive, and then shifting up puts you into neutral, and then you tap that button to get into park. So it does take a little bit getting used to because it doesn't hold the gear. It kind of stays on that axis, but it's nice. It's nice, and I've gotten used to it. I wasn't initially a fan, but I don't absolutely hate it. Down here is your drive mode selector. So if you spin this dial, you can see it's going to pull up all these cool different modes that you can go into, and the Hummer will break through into each different terrain, and it's just, oh my word, it's towing a spaceship. It's very cool overall. And in the center of that dial, you also have a couple of different buttons. For one, you can raise and lower the air suspension with the ride height, which I think is cool. So if I hit this up, I can go all the way up, and then it will begin to raise the suspension. I guess we have to put it into terrain mode to do that, but you understand the principle right there. So you raise and lower that from there. I like this button, this kind of little, almost like triangle with a line in it. So if we press this, it says your mode, your mission, epic ideas at GMC.com, and then it dismisses itself. So it's basically telling you, if you have any ideas on how to make this even cooler, email us, which is such a dad thing to say, you know. It's maybe a little bit more cringy if the company would have left like an Instagram handle, like, look, kids, we're hip, we have Instagram. But it's just so honest that they're like, it's an email. Just send us an email. So you have the GMC email button right there. And then if you tap this, this will switch it to rear wheel steering. So this has an incredibly tight turning radius because the rear wheels also turn. And that leads to one of my favorite modes. If we hold this, this will pop up on the screen, and we keep holding, and it will activate crab walk mode. And so it'll pull up the cameras right here, and if I put this into drive, it's very convenient. We have these lines that we can get between, and I just want to show you from the inside what this looks like, because I have footage already lined up of what it looks like on the outside. So I'm going to reverse this a little bit here. I want to show you from the interior. It's such a weird feeling. I do not have a lot of experience driving a vehicle like this, nor do many people. So it's a very strange feeling. So I'm going forward, and I'm turning the wheel. Look at how much I'm turning the wheel here, but we're barely going. And I turn it all the way this way. All the wheels are turning. And this is designed to basically allow me to navigate tighter rock crevices or paths off-road without having to turn the entire vehicle in one certain direction. It's very useful. It's such a cool party trick, and you just glide across the road. It's very odd to drive, but I'm not complaining. It's very cool. So that is one feature that I really like. And to turn that off, we're just going to hold that button again, and we can turn rear wheel steering off. So we are back. We're back to normal. Pushing this back into park and continuing along, you have a gigantic storage area, which again is not surprising. Just some storage down there, and there is a 12 volt right there. This is the first edition of the new Hummer, so it will have that logo denoted right there. And this has Jeep-esque panels that you can remove from the roof. Very cool to look out of. They are tinted, so you do not get direct sunlight coming in. I know certain people, though, that would like maybe a shade or a cover that could go over them. But I don't think it's really going to let a ton of sun in. You can really just see the difference right there on the tinting. And then if we move up here to the mirror, that is a camera, as I previously mentioned. So that's really cool. If you have occupants in the rear seats that are blocking that view, you can turn that on and make it a lot easier to be able to see out of the rear. So that's pretty much the front seats in here. Let's take a quick look at the back, and then we will take it for a spin. Moving to the rear seats, there's quite a bit of room. You also get your own climate controls back here, as well as climate vents, heated seats, USB and USB-C. And there is a fold-down armrest with 2 cup holders. It's comfortable overall, and I think it's a nice place to be. All right, driving the new Hummer EV SUV. When I drove the truck, I mentioned how I really thought it had a commanding view, but visibility out of this front windshield wasn't superb, and I still stand by that. I think it's very cool, but the visibility isn't great. In fact, I've put the camera, I've mounted my suction cup on the roof panel, which gives you guys a new angle, something I don't normally do, because if I mounted it on the windshield, it's so thin that I'd be taking up a lot of my visibility. Now, that being said, this does have blind spot monitoring, and there are a host of safety features here, so I don't necessarily feel unsafe, but it does definitely have some bigger blind spots in visibility, even though it has all this safety system. I think it is very cool regardless. We're gonna accelerate a little bit, and man, it's just so cool how fast this thing picks up. I cannot believe at how fast this is for such a big SUV. Obviously, the electric powertrain does that. You're not getting that on the 6.2 liter V8. Does not accelerate that quickly. I can't wait to get this on the highway. Seating comfort is very good. I think these seats are very plush. They're very comfortable, and they are power adjusting. All right, getting on the highway here. We're going to accelerate to merge on, and I'm going to go pedal the floor here. Holy Toledo, this thing picks up. Look at us pass this F-150. Wow. That's crazy how fast this thing picks up. What an impressive drive. I mean, frankly, this is a toy, right? This is a toy. This is a big, when they say like, oh, it's his big boy toy, this is it, right? This is the epitome of that. It's a truck that handles so powerfully. It has so many crazy features built into it. And a lot of it is party trick stuff, which I love. I would tell every person about crab walk mode if I could. And I mean, it's not a bad thing. It's cool overall to be able to mess with a lot of this stuff and have the functionality built in that it does. Speaking of crazy party trick functionality, we are going to demo the Watts to Freedom mode right now.
All right, ready?
Yep. Oh my gosh. Whoa! Holy Toledo. Wow. The last thing I wanted to say about the driving experience is that I mentioned in the truck variant, these panels were really squeaky when I was driving. They are not doing that on this SUV version, so I don't know if they fixed that issue, if it was an issue just with that truck. Either way, this sounds good now. Well, that's just about going to wrap up my review of the Hummer EV. I really hope you guys enjoyed. Before I go, though, I'd like to mention that I am a Christian, and if you have any prayer requests, I would love to be able to pray for you guys. You can leave those in the comment section below. And lastly, I'd like to close out on a weekly scriptural reading. This week, I'm in the book of Proverbs. I've been there a lot recently. The book of Proverbs is considered wisdom literature, stuff that is wise, and we should follow that. And I love this verse, chapter 12, verse 1. I think it's honestly a little silly. It says, "Whoever loves discipline loves knowledge." That's true. "But he who hates reproof is stupid." Now, I don't know if that's the exact translation in the original Hebrew, but that's what it is in my ESV. So, he who hates reproof is stupid. You gotta be willing to be corrected. All right, guys, I'll see you next time. Take care.